I still recall Joe Bowers standing perplexed in a world where everyone screamed in each other's faces from Idiocracy. President Camacho roared on stage with firearms and fireworks like a wrestling stadium. I laughed at everything because it was so ridiculous. It couldn't be taken seriously. I thought Idiocracy was a bad joke, a movie that dumbed down every character to make the audience feel smarter. The epiphany hit me as I started researching behind-the-scenes stories. Idiocracy was never meant to be funny. Hollywood saw it as an insult to mass democracy, based on a true Disneyland incident. Was released surreptitiously as if the studio feared exposure. It contained prescient jokes that the world would have to live with a few years later. The 20 oddest, most unexpected, and darkest Idiocracy truths you've probably never known. 20. Disneyland started Idiocracy. I vividly remember watching Idiocracy to unwind, laughing at a future that seemed too overblown and foolish to be taken seriously. Years later, I learned that Mike Judge had the film's idea at the happiest spot on earth, which changed my perspective. In Disneyland with his family, Mike Judge saw a tragically true scene. Two women with stroller-bound toddlers yelling obscenities at each other in a kiddie theme park. Nobody was ashamed. No one retreated. Nobody cared if kids heard every word. The moment halted Judge. Not because of rudeness, but something more uncomfortable. This behavior was typical. A simple, terrifying thought emerged. If this was humanity's future, how terrifying would it be? The Idiocracy premise emerged then. A civilization where stupidity and ugliness are normal. Where such behavior is carried down through generations and affects child-rearing. Through daily example, not doctrine. Ironically, Judge didn't envision that future in politics or labs. It seemed like the first world demo in a children's park. Film gags turn true. Most people feel the same when they first watch Idiocracy. Everything is too much, so they laugh. After years, the feeling changes. Not because the film is less hilarious, but because actual life has become unsettlingly similar. The clearest example is Bras Undue. Plain water is worthless in the picture. Humans and crops run on electrolyte-rich energy drinks. It was a silly joke then. Reality showed energy drink adverts with nearly identical slogans. Energy boosting electrolytes power. Need it. Idiocracy didn't mock tech. It mocked advertising's behavioral manipulation. Or Costco. Costco is unchallengeable in the film like a little state bureaucracy. Watching it today, many shiver at how closely it resembles the commercialization of education, paying for a degree without learning. Costco was a joke in Idiocracy. In real life, a model. Finally, TV. In the film, dumber shows receive more airtime. Thinking is unnecessary, so audiences laugh. Real-life reality TV viral clips work like digital material. More shocking, simpler, and easier to consume, the more pushed. Many admirers admit resentfully. Actual reality shows are idiocratic. 18. Mike Judge was criticized for disparaging America. Remember how you felt when Idiocracy debuted? It didn't outrage people. No demonstrations or noisy disputes. A weird quiet. When Mike Judge opened up about what happened behind the scenes years later, people understood. Judge said some studio execs felt upset during internal viewing. Some declared Idiocracy anti-American. Instead of attacking a party or policy, it accomplished something much more destructive. It mocked their entire system. The film is impartial. It targets more than politics, TV, and education. It presents a consumer world where elections, education, and entertainment firms exploit cheap emotions and extreme simplification. Realizing they weren't outside that picture made many Hollywoodites anxious. Hollywood experts said idiocy targets its main audience. Thus, it insulted those paying, distributing, and deciding what existed. Fox may have been afraid to promote it strongly or stand proudly behind it, so they picked the safest option and let the picture fade away. Because it was too correct, not wrong. 17. Because I was broke, I just remembered those odd plastic shoes as a visual humor when I first watched Idiocracy. I never envisioned the maid appearing on shopping mall streets or celebrity feet. Years later, when I heard Mike Judge explain the behind-the-scenes narrative that feelings shifted instantaneously, Idiocracy had a tight budget. The costume department sought futuristic, odd, cheap shoes. No big brands. No costly license. One designer suggested a mysterious business creating terrible plastic shoes with holes. Though ugly, they were cheap. Judge paused and asked a valid question. Could these shoes become trendy by the time the movie comes out? The response made the room laugh. Never would anyone wear these. The shoes were Crocs. Crocs were chosen for Idiocracy because they symbolized a foolish future society without aesthetics, utility, or guilt. Ironically, after the film's premiere, Crocs became a global fashion icon worn by celebrities and corporations. Then a disturbing paradox developed. Stupidity didn't predict Crocs. It accidentally made them. A dumb future prop confidently entering the present. 16. Are you familiar with Maya Rudolph from Idiocracy? A time-traveling prostitute who was introduced as the smartest person in the future, she is a bright spot in a society where everyone cries and swears. We laughed at that paradox. A smart, clear-headed character in the midst of chaos, hanging on to reason for the entire film. In reality, Maya Rudolph's tale changed. She had her first child in October 2005, before Idiocracy hit theaters. While the picture was abandoned by its studio and released quietly as if it never happened, her real life went through a different kind of turbulence, becoming a mother and stepping away from the spotlight. The contrast chills. As the last future intelligence, she appears on screen. As a real mother, she faced the world without a script or forced laughs. A dumb future for laughs is on one side. Responsibility and maternal instinct replace sharp dialogue in the present. This contrast may make Maya Rudolph's role disturbing in retrospect. Terry Crews says Camacho scares him. In Idiocracy, President Camacho garnered the most laughs in theaters. Terry Crews is a muscular president who swore, swung guns, and roared like a wrestler entering the ring. At the time, Camacho was overblown humor that couldn't be taken seriously. Terry Crews once thought so. While filming, he feared he was going too far, making everything ludicrous so the audience wouldn't believe it. An innocent political satire. Saying something different years later when the world evolved. Upon reflection, he's no longer sure the role was comedy. Emotional Camacho rules. Elected for excitement. He shouts instead of discussing. Arms and bravado are leadership traits. A truly disturbing moment ensues. Camacho abandons character. He frightens his creator. Crews said comedy ends when the actor fears his character. The laughing from then fades shortly. 14. Are arrest records so stupid they become honest? Remember Joe's Costco arrest? People chuckled at the background electronic board because it looked ludicrous. The arrest reasons were laughably simple. He's an asshole for escaping prison and causing tons of trouble. No statutes, legal clauses, just feelings. We laughed, thought this was classic Mike Judge exaggeration. However, closer study reveals one of the film's most frightening elements. Future society could have laws, even in Idiocracy. It claims society lacks the intelligence to articulate its laws. Once precise administrative terminology has become crass insults. If laws are unclear, ambiguity can be used to control. No statute violation arrest. Because they dislike you, you're arrested. This rule requires no argument or proof, only a majority nodding. The ancient joke becomes offensive because it taps into a common anxiety in any society. 13. The brand Brondo was bought but the film buried. Few recognize an idiocratic paradox. While Fox nearly cancelled the film, no promotion, no trailers, no red carpets, it bought the Brondo brand. Yes. Plants crave Bra Undo, the ludicrous energy drink with electrolytes. The goal was clear. Bra Undo should be sold as a real-world product to avoid the film's outcome. A movie-mocking joke removed. It was exquisite irony. Bra Undo grew famous among fans, and some enjoyed drinking it. Meanwhile, Idiocracy. The film that developed Bra Undo wasn't credited on theater posters. The official Brondo.com website is gone. But traces remain. Bra Undo is one of the rare movie gags to become genuine. 12. The Surgeon General's warning, a simple but meaningful joke. A small aspect in Idiocracy is often overlooked. The U.S. Surgeon General's warning on a Tarleton cigarette advertisement is almost unreadable. Hard to read, the message is ludicrous. Warning. Despite only one lung and vocal cord, the Surgeon General can kick your sorry ass. The joke was a throwaway then. The satire is razor sharp. Public health warnings have become cheap macho threats. Overwhelmed by noise and images. Idiocracy doesn't mean future society rejects danger. It implies society lacks the attention span and intelligence to care. The truth exists, but it's shrunk to fit a loud culture where everything must scream to be noticed. Idiocracy's punchline is chilling because of this detail. Danger remains. The text is simplified until no one reads it. 11. Brand order reversed. More brands increase legal safety. I laughed at the ludicrous density of brand names Starbucks, Carl's Jr., Costco everywhere in Idiocracy the first time I watched. It seemed like an overblown consumer culture joke at the time. Behind the laughs came Mike Judge's actual fear. It was funny and clever to spoof everything to avoid being sued for parodying businesses. No brand can claim victimhood when all are mocked. Result: inverted product placement. Instead of covert advertising, Idiocracy exposes brands as stupid and suspect. Ironically, many corporations were happy with it. They knew this movie would never be released, not because they liked being humiliated. 10. Media and oh my balls, remember the show? Because no thinking is needed, the future society laughs wildly when a man is repeatedly slapped in the groin. It seemed like the film's cheapest joke, the kind you thought could only be in fiction. Mike Judge denies predicting television's future. Seeing the trajectory was all. Already, shock dash, pain dash, and humiliation-based programs were winning. Ow My Balls was the final push entertainment without words, context, or significance. The near-future Fox News in Idiocracy is essentially identical but for exaggerated hair and intensity. Avoid message distortion. Turn up the volume. After years, life caught up. Shocking viral videos and fail compilations spread quickly. Looking back, many fans realize Idiocracy wasn't prophesy. It simply stated that media that takes the easiest route arrives at its destination. 9. Buried Alive release. You may not recall when Idiocracy hit theaters, which is the issue. Many industry insiders say the film was buried alive. No trailers, posters, red carpet, or press campaign. The Mike Judge Project was screened for 1 week in some theaters with a surprisingly cold title on the marquee. Like the studio intentionally eliminating its child. More crazily, several actors didn't know where the picture was released until it was ended. No explanations or statements. However, the implied message was apparent. Keep it hidden. Not because Idiocracy was horrible, but because it was the kind of picture that would make too many people uncomfortable, from spectators and the media to the institution it mocked. Thus, Idiocracy died. Certain films don't need promotion since reality will do it, until proven otherwise. 8. One of Mike Judge's most crucial Idiocracy orders was to act like a cartoon. Unrealistic acting. Psychologically flat. No logic required. Like talking pictures, every motion line and reaction needs to be dramatic. Judge wanted a ludicrous future, not a malicious one. However, such choice put production on a precarious edge. Some extras breached that border while filming. People thought the film encouraged crass behavior, discriminatory jokes, and inappropriate language, not the plot. Judge had to edit scenes and control performances. This showed an unsettling fact. Satire idiocy can be misinterpreted for endorsement. The film's future shouldn't be hateful, said Judge. He wanted the nothingness to be unsettling, a world where people aren't malevolent but merely unthinking. 7. Self-fulfilling warning. Years later, an Idiocracy-style dilemma emerged. The film satirizes anti-intellectualism and was deemed too harmful for broad consumption. Studios worried Idiocracy would offend audiences. It challenged collective intelligence, something every mass entertainment company fears, not because it was violent or sexual. The box office disaster, around $400,000, is rare in theatrical release history. No promotion, chance, or audience. Idiocracy's threat came true here. A film that claims society will overlook anything that makes people think was ignored. Idiocracy survived. Though right, it failed because it was too early. 6. Camacho was supposed to return but the studio declined.
President Camacho was considered for a sequel years after Idiocracy became a cult film. Commercial cameos or election season tie-ins can mess with communal memory. The idea never left the studio. The basic, unpleasant rationale was spoken around the industry. Camacho appeared too real. No longer safe caricature. No more extreme comedy. He seemed like a direct reflection, and no one wanted to stand in front of that mirror on the large screen. Fox backed off. There wasn't enough distance to laugh, not because the notion was bad. A brand becomes a problem when satire and realism overlap. Camacho stays in Idiocracy like a framed warning. 5. From comedy to documentary and DVD resurrection. Rewatching Idiocracy nearly 10 years later is odd. Not because the film has gotten worse, but because so much of it no longer feels like parody. Lines formerly called lazy, nasty, or crass sound hauntingly familiar. Mike Judge noticed too. He stopped calling Idiocracy a comedy and started calling it a documentary in later interviews. Not because the film predicted every detail, but because its societal trajectory no longer looked overblown. Ironically, Idiocracy failed at the box office. It survived college dorm DVDs, midnight screenings, Reddit, YouTube, and meme culture. After being rejected as foolish, lines become meme scripture. People quote the film to sigh, not laugh. A movie accused of criticizing the people was saved by the younger masses. For Idiocracy is sometimes thought to be a novel concept created of modern skepticism. The film's main idea was revealed long ago by Mike Judge. CM's 1951 science fiction short story The Marching Morons inspired him greatly. Cornbloth. The story suggests something terrifying. Intelligent individuals increasingly quit having kids. Less educated folks reproduce uncontrolled. The upshot is a steady, rational, scary social decline. Judge viewed that story as a forgotten warning, not science fiction. He didn't think he was imagining the future. He thought he was reviving a mid-20th century anxiety in the language of television advertising and mass consumer culture. That's vital. Don't blame imagination for Idiocracy. It came from what Judge saw daily and what he felt would be laughed at and ignored. 3. The original title was despised. Most people are unaware that Idiocracy almost had a more startling name. The original title Mike Judge proposed was The United States of America, spelled phonetically, purposely, incorrect, and crass to insult national pride. Judge said it wasn't cheap provocation but a direct approach to say the picture implied a culture that may misinterpret its own name. Fox reacted quickly. The studio considered the title confrontational, hard to market, and offensive. No offense to a select group, but all. Executives concerned that the title would make the picture a target before spectators viewed its content. Idiocracy was both sides' compromise. Despite being neutral, safer, and less confrontational, discomfort was rejected as too honest. 2. The Office Space cast echoes. If you viewed Office Space before Idiocracy, you may have felt familiar without being aware. Mike Judge has a peculiar habit. He uses actors again since they fit the parts and share the soul he's exploring. In Office Space, that soul belongs to office workers crushed by an indifferent system. By senseless rules, people must comply. They're tired, not stupid. They recognize the issue but cannot fix it. Idiocracy revisits familiar people as distorted evolutionaries. The noisy vulgar emptiness of mass society replaced the office's calm resignation. If Office Space is a cubicle sigh, Idiocracy is a town square shout. Both films must not contradict each other. Like two chapters of the same story. One displays system-suffocated humans. The other depicts people becoming ignorant like the system. Till they forget being suffocated. 1. Easter eggs and the reward. Many skip over a small point at the beginning of Idiocracy and forget it. In the opening montage, the family tree explains the future's failure. Names seem familiar if you look attentively. The future bloodline features King of the Hills Hank Hill. Even a goat. This joke isn't random. Mike Judge combines his creative universe into idiocy. Hank Hill and other fine people who worked hard and believed in reason don't disappear. They're diluted and overpowered by future biological and cultural currents. Simple pattern runs through that opening. Stop overthinking. The film presents it quietly,
almost comfortingly. The cold comes when you stop to think about the family tree, familiar names, and seemingly inconsequential facts. The Idiocracy doesn't say intelligence is lost overnight. It claims intelligence is gradually diluted until it's lost without notice. When you look at Idiocracy from its Disneyland origins to its seemingly innocent gags to its burial and quiet resurrection as a documentary, not Mike Judge's future, but our reaction to it may be scarier. We laughed. We found it overblown. We thought we were smart enough to avoid that reality. Judge's coldest warning may have been that a society collapses not from malice, but from individuals becoming uncaring. What about you? What makes you shiver most when you view the film today? Do you recall laughing at times that are no longer funny? Comment your thoughts. If you like deep dives into films, like, subscribe, and switch on notifications so you don't miss future posts where cinema isn't simply entertainment but a mirror to our world.